It is unacceptable. It's cruel. Democracy is dead. And we should not accept the radical right turning this into a cultural battle. This is about the future of humanity as a whole. Left, right, and center. Everyone will suffer. Well, he certainly knows ways to shut me up. Giacomo. We've been working together for many, many years, and I think the Party of European Socialists and Social Democrats is very, very lucky to have him as the Secretary General, together with Saar van Buren. They're doing an incredible job. I was thinking about what he was saying when I was at the Commission in the first years. I remember our son Mark coming down the stairs one morning and having a coffee with me, and I said, "Do you want a coffee?" And he said, "Yes, you unelected, faceless bureaucrat," because that was what you called European commissioners at the time, and probably still. And at the same time, we are in a position as European Commission to really mold the future of Europe on behalf of European citizens. And I think this should be understood when you go to the polls, and I hope you will go to the polls on here in the Netherlands the 6th of June, that what is at stake is the way Europe will be formed in the years to come. We would not have a European Green Deal had we not come out as Socialists and Social Democrats and as Greens strong in the last European elections. It would not have happened. And the interesting paradox is that as I failed to get the presidency of the European Commission, which was traumatic at the time because we came very, very, very close, which reminds me of a football game last night, but let's not go there. let's not go there. We came very close, but the prize we got was not the position, but the policies. And this applies to the Green Deal just as much as it applies to the social issues Agnes has been working on and Nico was responsible for in the European Commission. We did get an agreement on pushing back on treating kids with a Uber or whatever rucksack as entrepreneurs. And we did get them the social rights they deserve, the protection they deserve. We did get them to be recognized as employees, what they are. We did get across the European Union that we need a minimum wage across the European Union that is 60% of the median wage. That is something we have achieved together also with full support of the Greens. This was something we did together all the time. So, do not underestimate the influence we can have on shaping people's lives based on solidarity, based on the need to shape the future for the many, not the few. And I want to start by saying something about the European Green Deal and its perception as something for the tofu-eating Tesla drivers. The whole point of the Green Deal as we have built it is to make sure that it has a transactional aspect along the same lines as in social policies, so that the people who cannot afford to be part of the transition to a sustainable society are supported by transactions to get to that position. And in the coming years, we will have to show this very, very concretely. And I would say, in echo to what Nico has said, housing is the prime example. If we can get social housing to be transformed also with public money into sustainable housing, we will not only reduce our collective carbon footprint, we will reduce people's energy bills substantially and thus give them more purchasing power, more money to spend on essential things. And this is essential in a country like the Netherlands. Yes, we are one of the richest nations on the planet, but still 1/3 of our households just can't make ends meet by the end of the month, and I think this is unacceptable. And reducing their energy bills will absolutely contribute to having more money to spend on essential things for the kids, etc., in combination with providing much better housing. So even if this leads to slightly higher rents, the lowering of the energy costs will be such that on balance they will have more money to spend. And this is what we are here for. This is why the green project is a red project, and the red project has to be a green project unless we just deny that we need to create a sustainable future. All the scientists who have been advising us on this issue over the last couple of years, all of them are on the verge of despair because we are not listening to them. All of them are now telling us, look, we're heading for 3 degrees, and in Europe probably even more, because the acceleration of the temperature in Europe is going faster than elsewhere on the planet. So we do not have the luxury to look away, to pause. And we should not accept the radical right turning this into a cultural battle. This is about the future of humanity as a whole. Left, right, and center. Everyone will suffer. But the people with the least income will suffer more than anybody else because they have nowhere else to go. So our task is monumental, but not impossible. And here I want to refer to something that was said earlier about cynicism. What is cynicism in essence? And there's a lot of it going on in society. Cynicism, in my view, in essence, is despair solidified. People who no longer have hope, people who no longer see a better future, slip into cynicism as a defense mechanism. And we should always keep that in mind and not respond with cynicism to cynicism, but offer hope where there is cynicism, offer perspective where there is cynicism, show to people that the problems we have can be solved if we stick together and if we actually put ourselves to the task. Why, people ask in the Netherlands, why do so many people in the Netherlands who are quite well off and doing well, why do so many people there vote for the extreme right? My answer is very simple. People do not vote on the basis of where they are. People vote on the basis of where they fear they might be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And the fear of loss is what creates the surge of the extreme right across the European Union. It's the fear of loss. Our task is to show to people that the future comes with a lot of challenges, and that there's reasons to be concerned and sometimes even fearful. But at the same time, we have the answers to face the challenges. Redistribution, to make sure that nobody is left behind. Tackling things together as Europeans to make sure we transform our industry like the Americans are doing right now and the Chinese are doing. We cannot stay behind. These are the things we need to do in the years to come. And we can do them. What makes us weak is a lack of belief that change and positive change is possible. What makes us strong as progressive movements is sticking to that belief and telling everybody we meet that if we stick together, we can actually solve these issues. And I have to say this also in the context of global challenges. Now, there's a lot been said in the Netherlands and very harsh comments being made about the students in our universities protesting the horrors visited upon the citizens of Gaza. I am proud of young people who take the trouble to go out and come together and voice their protest against injustices they see in the world. We should be proud of them. Of course, we do not condone violence. Of course, we condemn violence. Of course, we do not want people to destroy things or to allow those who are only out for violence to dictate the movements. But let's not underestimate the power of people who are committed to express their views on injustices they see elsewhere, the power to take us along with them and to do whatever we can to stop what is happening in Gaza. And I think the European Union should now immediately convene at the highest level, the European Council, come together and come to the conclusion that they should send a clear message to Netanyahu and especially also his extreme right coalition partners, and tell them, if you go on in Rafah, there will be consequences, there will be sanctions. We will not give you any weapons. We will also consider other sanctions. If we do not give that message now, when we wait until the full-fledged actions on Rafah are unleashed, it's too late. He needs to get that message now. If President Biden is able to give that message, why the hell are we Europeans not able to give that message together? We should be doing it immediately. And I am frankly fed up that whenever somebody protests the actions of this radical right government in Israel, they are told that they are anti-Semites. Criticizing Netanyahu is not anti-Semitism, and I will not accept that we are branded as anti-Semites simply for criticizing the actions of the Israeli government. And by the way, let me say very clearly, I feel a strong solidarity with political movements in Israel we have been associated with for generations, who are going into the streets, protesting Netanyahu, asking for a ceasefire, asking for peace. These Israelis are our friends, and we will support them as much as we can. And as Nico has said before, our solidarity with the people of Ukraine should have no limits, because we cannot afford to stay close to them. We should understand that what is at stake is not just the freedom of Ukraine, it's the freedom of the whole of the European continent, including the Netherlands, including all the members of the EU. And you know, nostalgia is what drives the right. You know, nostalgia is a very, very interesting thing. Nostalgia, in small measures, is like wine. You know, you take one glass, two glasses. It feels good, and you can cope with the challenges of today and tomorrow. But what the extreme right are doing is drinking whole bottles of nostalgia so that they lose the way. And they're just looking at the past and creating a mythical past that never was, and saying that that is their project for the future, where women just go back and cook and make babies and don't open their mouths, where we don't have any trans people, where gay people don't exist, or at least when they exist, they stay in the closet. That is not our society. Civil liberties are essential in maintaining European values. The fight my grandmothers and my mother have fought for equal rights cannot be turned in another direction. We have to fight. People, we have to stand up, because women's rights are under pressure today. Women's rights are being attacked on the basis of nonsense such as family values. How are you going to explain to a child that has two loving mothers that if one of the mothers would perish, sadly, that the other person can no longer be considered a mother because the Prime Minister of Italy is of the opinion that that mother should not be seen as a mother? It is unacceptable. It's cruel. And the cruelty of the extreme right is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I would wish every child in Europe and in the world to have warm, loving parents, to grow up in a protected family. And it doesn't matter one bit whether the parents are a man and a woman, two women or two men. It doesn't matter a bit, as long as they take care of their children, the children are protected, they will grow up to be wonderful citizens. And this is something we need to fight for, and we will not let the extreme right draw us into that direction. Now, for the European elections, what is at stake? In Europe, positive change can only come if center-left and center-right are committed to positive change and find common ground, because that's where the majorities are. But what is happening in Europe now is that the center-right, afraid of losing face or losing clarity, have decided to step by step align themselves or turn their attention to the extreme right, with this convoluted idea that by aligning themselves with the extreme right, they will incorporate them and neutralize them. Now, look at the experiences. The center-right in Italy has disappeared. They're very, very small. And the two competing parties are extreme right parties. And I don't know which is more disgusting, Meloni's party or Salvini's party, but I find both of them very unappetizing. In Sweden, the extreme right is not in the government, but they are the puppet master directing everything the government does. And you see, in Sweden, academic freedom is under pressure. The freedom of the media is under pressure. And this is something that I would not have imagined possible in Sweden a couple of years ago. It is happening. It is happening. And the protest of the media in many, many countries, increasing number of countries, because their freedom is being limited, should be supported by us. Not because we believe that by supporting the media they will write more kindly or report more kindly about us. No, because we know that if the media are no longer independent, democracy is dead. Democracy does not die in a big explosion. It dies by 1,000 cuts. Whenever somebody says, I don't trust the outcome of the election, like what happens in the United States. Whenever somebody says, these media should not be subsidized because they're not saying the right things. Whenever somebody says the judges are not independent, they belong to a political party. All of this has happened in this country by the party that won the biggest result in the election. It is not an innocent wordplay. There is an ideology behind it. And if you want to see what the ultimate result is of that ideology, please go to Russia. There you see what happens if guided democracy, as he called it, Putin, goes into autocracy, and now he has created a totalitarian war state that is a direct threat to our security. We need to stop that. And don't forget, even those extreme right parties in Europe who today distance themselves from Putin, they follow his reasoning. They love him for his ideology. They love him for his strongman politics. And if he, God forbid, wins the war in Ukraine, step by step they will come out, put it back on the table and say, well, you know, we need to come to an arrangement with him, etc., etc., etc. Be aware that what is at stake is our freedom, our liberty, and our open society. They abhor a society where everyone has individual rights. But I cannot live in a society where individuals are not allowed to be who they are. That is the core element of an open democratic society. Your life, your choices, your way of life, this is what we are made to protect. Now finally, I was thinking, listening to previous remarks, I was trained as a soldier to fight the Warsaw Pact. And then as a young diplomat, I was sent to the Soviet Union. But before going there, working at the Foreign Ministry, I went to Berlin when the wall came down. And I will never forget that feeling. And I was thinking when I was there, looking at Germany reuniting, that only 4 years earlier, in the spring of 1985, I was a student in France, in Nancy, and we organized a conference about Europe's future. And all sorts of high-level people came, and there was a general from the French army who stood up and said, I have a question. What would happen if Germany would be reunified? Because that's a big problem. They will have to be neutral. What would that do to NATO? So what will happen if Germany would be reunified? All the Germans present stood up as one woman and one man and said, nonsense, unthinkable. There will always be two Germanys. You should not be having these ideas. They are totally unthinkable. 4 years before the wall came down. So if today, and then of course, the same experts who had said unthinkable, in November '89 said, well, it was inevitable. And I have had that experience many times also when I went to the Soviet Union and I started reporting the Soviet Union might, crumble and fall. Unthinkable. And then, of course, in 1991, it was inevitable. So the message I have on the basis of my personal experience, and I was in the Krajinac right after Operation Storm, and I saw the most horrible, horrible actions against innocent people. And I will not describe them, tempted to describe them here, I will not do so. But we as human beings, thinking that we are very cultured, in the right circumstances, we are all capable of horrible atrocities to do to other human people if we start dehumanizing them. And talking to people as though they are to be judged on who they are instead of what they do is the first step in dehumanizing them. And that is what the extreme right is doing, step by step, dehumanizing the others, creating hate against the other, and then having a scapegoat, because all their promises will lead to nothing, but they will always have the foreigner to blame for things going wrong. That is my personal experience in the Balkans as a diplomat. In the 90s, I was also in Vukovar right after the destruction. I think these are impressions I will never forget. The smell, the destruction, the human suffering that had no end, among people that didn't even know whether they were Croats or Serbs. And then, of course, started asking children to do the cross sign. And then by the cross sign, they could see whether they were Orthodox or not. And that could lead to their deaths. I mean, this is how quickly this can go in human nature. And we are not, none of us is immune to that. The only thing that keeps us on the safe path is to respect the rule of law, to respect freedoms, to respect human rights, and to not use, as the prospective coalition partners in this country are trying to do, to use a so-called crisis as an excuse to not apply the law. They are now saying we have an asylum crisis, and because it is a crisis, like in the COVID crisis, you do not have to apply the law. This is a lie. It's a lie because, yes, there is a crisis, but the crisis is created because we did not, the Dutch government, reduce the amount of facilities to accommodate asylum seekers. We do not have an explosion of the numbers of asylum seekers at our borders. The numbers are high, and we need European policy and national policy to address that issue. I'm not shirking away from that. But let's not pretend that this country is about to go under because there is an asylum crisis. That's a lie. That's a lie, and we should not allow them to get away with that lie. Having said that, and then I come finally also back to Nico's core activities in the last 5 years. If we want really to address the issue of migration, then we will have to look at all aspects of migration, including labor migration. It is, for me, unacceptable. The exploitation of laborers going on in the Netherlands from day to day, in the slaughterhouses, on the agricultural fields, in the transport sector, in all these distribution sectors. People are being exploited. People are coming to the Netherlands and then being forced to declare that they're entrepreneurs, so that they don't have the social protection they have the right to. This is happening on a daily basis in this country. And yes, you can talk to me about the shortcomings in asylum policy. And yes, the Green Left and PvdA are prepared to talk about the issue, but only if we talk about demographic development in its full context. Do we need slaughterhouses in the Netherlands at this scale? I don't think so. Do we need certain aspects of our distribution economy? I don't think so. What we need are good jobs, well-paying jobs in the economy of the future. And those are the choices we will have to make. And yes, if you own a slaughterhouse, I don't have a good message for you. I'm being honest to you. We don't see a future for this economy. There's nobody living in this country who wants to work there. So you have to get endless people from everywhere to come here. And then if they don't do what you want, you just throw them out. The majority of the homeless people today in the Netherlands are people from Central and Eastern Europe who have been cast away because the employers no longer need them, or they don't do what they are expected to do. That is unacceptable. So if you talk about migration with me, let's start here. Let's solve this first. And then we still have the possibility. If we get control over the issues we can actually control, we can still say in good conscience, if there is a war somewhere, if people are being persecuted somewhere, yes, you have a safe haven in this country. Yes, you are welcome here. Yes, we will abide by all the international treaties that we have signed, because that is who we are. We will not abandon out of cynicism our moral imperatives and the values we cherish. This is what's at stake in the European elections. Don't underestimate that. My appeal to you is, help Bas and Nico to win these elections. In this country, I think we will be the biggest force at the end of the European elections. But only if we can get people to come out and vote. So please help me to get as many people to come out and vote on the 6th of June. And if you do that together with us, we will win. And then Europe has a chance to move away from the temptation of the cynicism of the extreme right and embracing a future that is more equal, based on solidarity, and based on the fact that we understand where our basic values lie. We will not let them kill democracy. We will fight for it to the very, very end. Thank you very much.